Why do you believe it is important for children or adults to have an understanding of the causes of racism?
I can tell you a personal example. I have a little second grade boy that I tutor.
Actually, here's a picture right here.
Muhammadu Dimbera. He's in the second grade. He is from Africa, Mali, Africa. And last year he was learning about the civil rights movement, and here in Greensboro was the opening of the Civil Rights Museum and the sit-ins. He was learning about that, and Martin Luther King birthday, and so he was getting bits and pieces of the information. He knew that Martin Luther King had made a speech, and that he had a dream, and that he was killed for having that dream and for making that speech. But that's pretty much all he knew.
Cause always dictates the effect, and I think without knowing or familiarizing ourselves with the causes of racism, that you would have tendencies to gravitate back to probably racial discrimination.
Bowen claims most textbooks downplay slavery in the North. However, since slavery seems to be a sectional rather than a national problem. Indeed, even the expanded coverage of slavery across as an unfortunate but minor blemish compared to the overall storyline of our textbooks. Most students probably do not realize the significant problem slavery was in the past, especially since textbooks downplay the idea. Why do you think textbook writers are wary of including this information?
I think textbook writers purposely downplay or even left out that information because it was potentially uncomfortable or controversial. We caused tension in the classroom. That information. He knew that Martin Luther King had made a speech, and that he had a dream, and that he was killed for having that dream and for making that speech. But that's pretty much all he knew. He knew the information, but he didn't know, and he knew that there was racism, but he didn't know what the law.
As Bowen notes, when textbooks make racism invisible in American history, they obstruct our already poor ability to see it in the present. The closest they come to analysis is to present a vague feeling of optimism. In race relations, as in everything, our society is constantly getting better. We used to have slavery, now we don't. We used to have lynchings, now we don't. Baseball used to be all white, now it isn't. What is your reaction to this quote, and do you think things have in fact changed?
I think there may be a vague feeling of optimism. I think things have changed, yes, but we still have slavery.
It was used to temper, that word was probably used to temper those masters and owners who were very harsh on their slaves. But at the same time, I'm sure there were slave owners who actually did treat their slaves well. So they're probably covering both spectrums.
So, in returning to this question, do you think that it's not really portraying it all positive? I agree with Abraham Lincoln's belief that slavery was the cause of the war. Why do you think we as a nation initially failed to admit slavery as the main cause?
I think it was for economic stability, probably was the main reason. These owners were profitable when they had slaves, and they didn't want to jeopardize that. And I think also because we knew slavery was shameful.
One of the main points we saw that was consistent in our Lies My Teacher Told Me interviews was how students are often presented with facts, but never understand the causes or the effects of specific events. We believe that in order to understand our current history, students must understand the past and its causes. Teachers do not teach this info because they are afraid of destroying the harmony and unity within their classroom, which they work so diligently to create. Also, we think textbooks and teachers often gloss over this info because it's easier to focus on the positives of history. As future teachers, we feel it is pertinent that we talk to our children about what racism is, the causes, and the effects, not leaving out the truth. Textbook publishers have engaged in the lie of omission, as they either briefly mention these important issues or leave them out completely. We as future teachers need to realize that not teaching the future generations the complete truth of the past is doing them an injustice, because in order to understand the present, children need to understand the past. Prior to this project, we didn't have an understanding of how to make history meaningful for our students. However, through interviews, we learned how important it is to integrate social studies with other subjects so students can draw on their own experiences. We must step out of our comfort zones as teachers and stop relying on the textbook, encouraging students to think critically about history by considering varying perspectives and the causes and the effects of historical events. We must ensure that our students are provided with the untold perspective of history, rather than glossing over the truth.